Hello everybody. I haven't made a video in a while because I've straight up just been a little bit lazy. But anyway, I'm still in Manchester and this is Dairyfield Park. If anyone that lives in the city, you're likely well aware of where this is. It's a nice park, it's fairly large. But what most people in the city don't know about is if you walk over this way, there's a hill over here, and not many people come up here or even know about it, as I've been up here at least a dozen times over the past 3 years, usually metal detecting or walking my dogs, but I never see anybody up here. Of all the times I've been up here, I've come across maybe 5 people, and I usually spend hours up here. So it's a nice private area to kind of hang out that's wooded. And I'm amazed that nobody really knows about it. Whenever I mention it, everybody's always confused. They're like, where is this place? And the main reason why nobody comes up here is because it's a fairly long trail to get up here and it's fairly steep. I'm not going to film the whole walk to get up here. But at the top of here, there's a little bit of history also. I made a previous video like 3 or 4 years ago, just for the hell of it, about the tower that's up here. I was going to do some thrifting this morning, but the thrift store is pretty much vacant. There's nobody working there because of the snow. So I decided to make a video, and I'm kind of shooting from the hip. I do know a little bit of history about this place, and I have looked up some pictures. So if my details are a little wrong, I apologize, as I just decided to come here on an instant. But anyway, there's a lot of footpaths around here also, and mountain biking paths. It's actually one of the nicest places in the city. It's not trashed, there's no homeless camps, and it's peaceful. As I was walking up this hill to get to the tower up here, I noticed a couple men here working on this tower. There's a guy here manning the safety rope, and there's someone up here working on the cell phone tower. I don't know if you can see him, but he's got an orange safety harness on. But that's definitely high up. Probably 150 feet or so. Fun, but anyway, I thought I'd show you that. I'm just about at the top of the trail. And we're starting to get a view of the Weston Tower. The Weston Observatory Tower was constructed in, I believe, the late 1800s. And it was dedicated to a person named James Weston, who was a very popular figure in Manchester during the 1800s. He was a civil engineer of the Concord Railroad Company, as well as a prominent banker in Manchester that turned into a politician. And they built this in his name. And it was originally constructed for people to just go inside of it and enjoy the views, as it has a 360 degree view around the whole area. I'd say it's about 60 feet tall, if I were to guess. I remember coming here in the 90s, before this place was restored, or before the tower was restored rather, as it was in shambles. All the windows were broken and whatnot, and you could actually drive a car up here, as this entire area was once a party spot. As I was saying earlier, that I've metal detected this area many times, and you'll find a lot of bottle caps, let's just say that. I did manage to find 3 silver coins here though, which is amazing considering this place has been metal detected at least 100 times by various people. But it is a beautiful granite block tower. Look how massive the granite foundation blocks are. As like they always say in the 1800's, they built things to last, and this tower will last as long as it gets repointed every once in a while. This thing will stand hundreds of years as long as there's not a massive earthquake. I'll post a few pictures, some older pictures of this area. I did manage to find a few. There's not many, but here they are. Also, these 2 cannons, there used to be 4 of them. There were 2 other cannons at the far end of this field. One of them got, I guess, stolen, and somebody scrapped it, believe it or not. I'm not sure what happened to the other one, but it's obviously not here. And these were moved here as they restored this place, as these were not here originally. But also during World War II, this was used as a bombing raid practice. It was a tower, as I believe bombers would likely would have flown from Pease Air Force Base to Manchester, and they would do bombing runs out in New Boston, New Hampshire. And from on top of this tower, they had an observer up there that could see where the bombs were landing in New Boston, as crazy as it sounds. And if you can't really see anything right now because it's snowing out, but you can see Joe English Hill. Which is where the New Boston Air Force Base is, which is a tracking station. But that's where the carpet bombing practice was done during World War II. I've actually been inside of that Air Force station. Me and a buddy of mine, we never were afraid to get in trouble, let's put it that way. And we were riding around on dirt bikes or 4-wheelers, I don't remember. But we headed towards Joe English Hill, as we both lived in New Boston at the time. This was like 15, 20 years ago. But anyways, we got towards Joe English Hill. There's a rock cliff, and there was a group of Army Rangers that were stationed there for the weekend that were practicing rappelling up and down the cliff. So we stopped and talked to them for a few minutes, and we started talking about the inside of the base. And they were mentioning that the Air Force Base is pretty much Club Med. There's like a private lake filled with trout. There's actually a campground, etc. One of the Rangers sarcastically said, "Just go in and check it out." And we're like, "We'll get in trouble?" They're like, "Nah, they'll just kick you out if they catch you." We're like, "All right." So we rode our dirt bikes into the Air Force Base, 100% illegally. This was after 9/11 also. But anyway, as we were riding around, we noticed there was a bunch of like areas where they do practice shooting and artillery and stuff like that. But there was also a lot of signs that gave warnings to not enter certain areas because there was unexploded ordnance from the World War II bombing runs that haven't been cleaned out yet. But we did make it to the lake where the campground was. And there was a couple Air Force guys that came up to us and talked to us for about 10 minutes But they were like, you guys got to get out of here because the MPs are coming. So we hightailed it. You know, we were on dirt bikes, so we got the hell out of there real fast. But I have been in that Air Force base, and it was kind of funny. But right here is these are actually water reservoirs. They've been here for quite some time. They've changed a few times, as you've seen in those older pictures that I posted. But this one here, all the times that I've been up here, there's never been any water in it. And the reasoning for that is because I think kids like to hop the fence and go swimming here during the summer. So they keep it empty. So likely they keep this one full, which is concrete and covered. So that's our emergency water in case Manchester ever runs out of water, which will likely never happen. But another beautiful shot of Weston Tower here. It's very pretty up here. It's very quiet. I recommend anybody in the city to come up here. And like I said, it's amazing to as of how many people I talk to that don't even know this is up here. This is truly the nicest area in the city, in my opinion, as I like the woods. And this is really the only real woods in the city. It's right in the heart of the city also. As you can see, some people have been up here. People like me. A lot of dog prints also. But the next area I'm heading towards is also interesting. And we're heading towards our next destination. Again, this is a thing that many people don't know about. I'd say most people under the age of 40 or even 50 don't really know about this place. But this was once a granite quarry that they started working here during I believe the later 1800s, as a lot of the granite from here was used for the mill yard and a lot of the granite foundations that were used for houses and whatnot. I'm not going to go too close to the edge as I don't know if there's ice under here or not, and it's quite a big drop. It's a death drop, let's put it that way. As you can see, no one else has walked here. And we'll slide down. Yeah, the rocks underneath are very slippery. I'll walk around to the basin as soon as I get this little area filmed. Yeah, they first started working here in the late 1800s. As I was stating, they quarried granite out of here for a lot of the mills and the houses. And I believe, from what I can recall, is during the 1920s, they were obviously quarrying granite and they hit a spring. So what happened is this place basically filled up with water. And I'm gonna head down to the basin so we can get a better view of it, and I'll continue on with the story. But that rock right there, I'm going to explain what people used to do off of this rock. I wouldn't recommend bringing a dog near this area, just because dogs are dumb and they don't understand heights. Let's just put it that way. Keep them away from the edge. And we'll do some bushwhacking through the woods here. That's why I like winter. You don't really have to worry about ticks. Yeah, being the smart hiker that I am, I'm not going to go through that because there's a chance that I could slip. It's just not worth it. That's about a 30-foot drop. "15 years ago, I would have just gone through it." I'm not as reckless as I used to be. And this is obviously one of the many trails in this area that I'm on right now. But I'm going to cut through here. And head on down. And as I was walking around the perimeter of this place to find a safe way to get down here, I did find this concrete block, which was likely part of probably the foundation of a machine that was here, probably a crane of some sort. There could have been a building here as well, but I'm not really sure. But I thought I'd share that. And right here, these spots right here are actually pools of water, as there's a small swamp here. And this is likely the remnants of the spring that they hit while they were quarrying here that filled this place up. But I was told that this quarry was once 20 to 50 feet deeper before the city filled it. And I'll explain to you in a moment as to why the city had to fill it as soon as I get into the basin. I'm guessing, but this was likely the entrance to the quarry, as I finally found a safe spot to venture to the bottom of this place. I actually had to walk around the whole perimeter of the quarry, as I wasn't gonna climb down a rock wall that's covered in snow and ice. During the summer, I would have, as there's a few areas that are somewhat safe to rappel down, without ropes anyway. But during the winter, I wouldn't recommend anybody to come down here. I really wouldn't, unless you're an experienced hiker, or you like grew up in the woods like me. If you're like a city slicker, you're just asking for trouble. Not that everyone in the city doesn't have common sense, but many are lacking. Let's just put it that way. They don't understand that there's a sheet of ice underneath the snow, and one small slip and you're going to be falling down a big cliff. And as you can see, nobody's been down here. There's no footprints or anything, so it's all virgin snow. It's absolutely beautiful down here today. And now we're approaching some of the rock faces. And as I was just mentioning, it used to be a lot deeper and the city filled it. And the reason for that is this place filled with water during the 1920s, as I mentioned earlier. And people started jumping off of these cliffs. There was a group called the Brownies that would do acrobatics off of these cliffs. Even during the winter, when it would freeze over, they would cut a hole in the ice and they'd still jump into it. And I'll post a few pictures of it in a moment. But as you can see, people have been dumping things off of this cliff for years. Likely kids. So right now it's probably about, I don't know, I'm a painter, I climb things, so I'd say it's about 50 feet tall. 50 to 55 feet is my guess. But I used to go down a lot deeper, another 20 feet or so. I like the cool ice formations. It's neat looking. Yeah, I had to walk around this whole perimeter. I went around this whole thing just to find the side that I could get into. But typically there's a couple areas that you can climb down during the summer because there's no ice involved. I'm trying to line up some pictures Again, I'm just going off of memory. I actually hear some ice cracking. There's a little bit of water underneath here. It's not deep, I'm not concerned. It's probably a couple inches of water. I just don't want to get wet. And here's the other side. But as you can see, there's still some water that tries to form and leaches through the ground. But it'll never reach because they overfilled. They filled it with backfill, which went over the original water line, so it will never fill again. Over the original water table, that's what I meant to say. And be careful not to slip and break my neck. You gotta really dig in here. Or I'm gonna go for a ride, which I almost did. And there I go. Like I said, it's very slippery. That's why I stayed away from those edges. But I'll manage to get up here. So don't come here in the winter. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. Especially around these high edges. Just stay away. But anyway, where those cliffs were, you can't really see it because this place is really overgrown now. And it's also one of the reasons why I'm filming this, because in another 10 to 20 years, this will be a forest and you'll barely be able to see the cliffs. Unless it's turned into a park or something, which I highly doubt. But right there is the cliff to where they used to jump off. Where that rock was on top, that was graffitied rather. That's where the brownies and various people used to just jump off for fun. During the summer months and even the winter. And believe it or not, it was a lot of females that did it. And if I recall, I believe in elementary school, there was a bunch of trapeze artists. We had an assembly in the gymnasium, and I believe they were called the Brownies. So even after this was filled and the water disappeared, the Brownies continued on, and I believe they got into a trapeze act for a while. I'm not sure if it's still going on, but I believe that's what they were called. Again, I was probably like 10 or 12, so I'm just going off memory from a long time ago. And it basically goes into a horseshoe. It's crazy how fast the trees grow. I'm not sure when this was actually filled. It might have been filled in the 80s, if I recall, because I know people, you know, when they're around 50 years old or so, that used to jump off of here. So they were kids in the 70s and 80s, so likely it was filled during the 80s. Again, I'm just guessing, but I think I'm guessing right. That patch of rocks up there looks so dangerous. That looks like it's just ready to crumble and fall. But right here is the area where I typically climb down to get here. But anyway, I'm going to head on up and show you one more thing. And one more thing. I just did a quick Google search on my phone. But this place was filled in 1983. As there was multiple drownings over the decades here, and the city just got tired of people dying here. So they filled it, and that was the end of the fun. But anyway, I thought I'd throw that in. And like I was mentioning, this place was filled in 1983. So none of these trees were here then. So in just 40 years, nature has completely taken this place over again. And like I was saying, in 20 years from now, you'll barely be able to even tell that this quarry was even here. You won't even be able to see the walls. And that's one of the reasons why I came here and filmed this. And this here will be my last destination of the day. A lot of people in Manchester, believe it or not, don't even know about this place. And people outside of Manchester likely don't know about it. But Manchester has its own little ski lift, which is really cool for being right dead smack in the middle of a city. And this is the Mcintyre Ski area, which was built in, I believe, 1971. How you doing? Good. I have a YouTube channel. I go around and film historic areas of Manchester.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Not many people come up here. It's crazy.
I know.
I talk to people in the city. They don't even know this is here.
Exactly.
But anyway, here's the little ski lift. I'm not going to get in people's way. But it's a pretty good sized slope. There's tubing and skiing and snowboarders here. And on a clear day, you can see Mount Washington from here if the sun's hitting it just right. You'll see the peak of it. But it just goes to show that Manchester is still a great city to live in. I know it's kind of gone downhill because of the crime, the drugs, the homeless people, and the rundown neighborhoods, but hopefully in the future it does take a turn. But if my mother watches this, why didn't you ever take me here when I was a kid? I'm just kidding, but I grew up on the west side. We had the soapbox derby track, which in the winter it turned into a sledding park, and I could just walk there. The only difference is these kids are spoiled, as they have a ski lift to get back up the slope, but we had to walk. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed my little exploration video here. Later.